Hello, 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 and welcome back to Jesus and Everything. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our series on Jesus and OnlyFans. What does the Bible actually say about sex work? I'm super excited about this particular episode because this episode is my very first interview. I have the opportunity to sit down with Michael Hurd. Michael is a serial entrepreneur. He has so many businesses. Super proud of him. He is also a minister and he is also a very proud sex worker. Super excited to sit down, learn about his life, learn about his journey, learn about sex work, and learn about his thoughts on what an ethical, healthy sex life looks like. Learn about his thoughts on sex work in the church and ministers and the politics and some of the tea and messiness that he spills. He has so much to offer, and so much to offer not only to myself, but many people who are thinking and wrestling through their thoughts around sex and theology and the Bible. So today you are in for a treat. Please enjoy this episode. Make sure that you also like, comment, and subscribe. Share it around. Let's actually have a true, honest, and open discussion about sex work, about OnlyFans, about the church, and the intersections of all of those things. Let's enjoy this particular episode where we ask Mike, what does he think about Jesus and OnlyFans? Alright, so hello everyone. I am here with a very special guest and a good friend of mine. His name is Michael Hurd. You might also know him from many of his social media through his name, Love and Light.
TV.
TV.
Right, Love and Light TV.
Really excited to have him today. Michael, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Mike. I am 43. Currently in school, pursuing my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to graduate in December. If I don't graduate in December, then it will be the summer of next year.
And that's totally fine.
And the only reason, because, we have a new business now, so it's a little difficult.
Juggling everything, yeah.
Yeah, I just won't sleep. But I've known you for almost 6 years now.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, about 6 years.
Wow.
And I am super excited about doing this interview. I am a father.
Mm-hmm.
I am a grandfather. I am a partner. I am a business owner. I'm so grateful. I'm a man of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm no longer a Christian, I am very spiritual, but I definitely respect my Christian background.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell my mom, who is a Christian, a Pentecostal Christian pastor, that I believe what you believe, just not the way you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. So pretty much that's me. I mean,
I didn't actually write this question down, but tell us a little bit about your faith journey. So you identify as a man of faith.
Yeah.
You talk about that you had a Christian background. Tell us about where you started and where you have come to be.
So I grew up in church, right?
Mm-hmm.
My entire family is made up of preachers and people who work on some level of ministry, even down to the choir. You know what I mean? We're just a ministry-oriented family. As I've grown older, I've realized that that's the heritage that my grandparents left for us. We don't come from a lot of money. We have not always in our family made the best life choices and decisions, but what does ring true through my family on my mother's side is the fact that we are all very anointed people, and we really have the gifts of God, within us. So I started out in the Churches of God in Christ. I was raised Kojic.
Yes.
I am still extremely proud about that.
Every black person is Kojic and Baptist.
Yes, or Apostolic, because I will say this, them Apostolics
is absolutely
they, which is very closely related to Church of God in Christ.
Yes.
It's crazy how we have different denominations based off one issue, which was baptism. We all saw the word exactly the same, except for when it came to that, which that issue was the start of my journey, right? So growing up in church, you're taught what to believe, right? The first question I ever asked was, why can't I hang out with my friends who are apostolic? Because we were not allowed. Like, if our pastor did not allow, would say things like, you don't hang out with apostolic people, you don't, you hang out with Baptist people.
Wow.
And I understood why we were not allowed to hang out with Baptist people. I was very clear on that. Because
now, why weren't y'all able to hang out with Baptist people?
Baptist people would smoke outside the church.
Oh, that's right.
Y'all was,
my grandmother.
Listen, would still drink on Saturday, come to church on Sunday.
Yes.
And we believed in a term called holiness.
Yes, full holiness.
Yeah, and
Sunday through Sunday.
Yeah, you know what? And I still believe in holiness, but I believe in holiness, WHOL.
Being completely
whole. Yes, yeah. So, so the closest that was related to us was the Apostolics.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And so I couldn't understand why I could not date girls who were apostolic, right? I couldn't understand why I couldn't hang out with my friends who were apostolic. We all believed in speaking in tongues. We all believed in prayer. We all believed in ministry. Like
all the things.
Everything except they baptized in Jesus' name, which I understood why they believed that, and I understood why we believed what we believed. So that was a little struggle there, but that was the start, because I could not understand why I could not be friends, and I'm sure they're going to see this video, why I could not be friends with the Birches, which we lived here, they lived here, our houses were in back of each other.
Y'all were Kojic, they were Apostolic.
And we were not allowed, but we would sneak.
And hang out with each other.
And thank God for my mom, who was a little bit more open-minded, and she allowed us to have friends.
As life progressed, it started off with one question about baptism.
Right, which led to other things.
And it grew into many other questions.
Right.
What were the questions that really started to move you?
You know what? I just did a paper on this. This is why this is so good. Okay.
I'm here for this.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just kind of thought this was ironic. The first question was when I read that God is a jealous God. And for me, I know at my moments of jealousy, and I still have moments of jealousy, we all have insecurities. I know that is because of a personal issue, right? Like, I'm not jealous because of them. I'm jealous because of something within me, right? So
there's a self-insecurity.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh my God, now we serve a God who has self-insecurity problem. Now I was asking this as like a little kid, because I was thinking like, okay, so if you jealous, that means you get mad. So if you get mad, that means all someone got to do is make you mad one time, and you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, you're all powerful. So then I got this horrible image of God just from that particular scripture, right? Of course, with everything else that was being preached to me at that time. And then I was introduced to something called worship, right? And the more I would worship God, the more I would spend time worshiping God, the more I felt in my spirit that I needed to be able to be honest with God. And I'm like, okay, even though I'm not confessing this, you already know, but like, you know what I'm saying? So all of the things that I considered sin, I already knew that God knew, but I was just afraid to say it. And so the more I would spend time in worship, the more I would have a desire to just live truth. You get what I'm saying? So that then made me feel like, if I'm going to be honest and tell the truth. Now, this was all over a 30-year span. So I don't want people to think like it was 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah. But I just knew it was something different for, that I was going to have to live my truth if I was going to be a real worshiper.
Yeah. So in living your truth, we now find you with a variety of businesses, right?
Right.
You tell us a little bit about your businesses.
So my newest business is Therapeutic Aesthetics.
Right.
Basically, where we just help people with their skincare, and we do something that is extremely popular called a booty facial, and basically where we want just people to start taking care of their booties, and we don't realize that the same care you need to give your face, you need to give your booty. And because most of the time booties are covered up, we never spent a lot of time on it. But now that people are being more excited about their booties, and they're showing their booties off more, and we're getting surgeries to enhance and fix and shape and dip and all of that.
Things.
Yeah, so people are just
take care of your booties,
right? All of that.
So you have Therapeutic Aesthetics.
Yes.
You're also an executive producer.
I am an executive producer for a new reality show. We can't really talk a lot about that, but I can tell you that when I was hired, that was probably one of my dream jobs. And I'm loving it. And I'm working with an amazing cast. So I'm excited about that.
And you also have an OnlyFans.
I do. And I am an extremely proud sex worker.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm so proud is because I am doing honestly and openly what I've always done privately. And honestly,
which connects back to what you were saying about worship, right?
Yes,
like
yes.
living authentically.
Yes.
And
the problem, so let me tell you where I feel like my life kind of got off of track in a sense, right? Although I know all things work together, right? I was given a major platform too quick, too soon. So I started preaching when I was 13, which then my name started growing, right? I'm preaching at this conference, this church, that church. And even as a teenager, I didn't have a life because I went to school and I went home and it was church. I don't know what it's like to consecutively go to football games every week. And the only times I were allowed to go was when I had a girlfriend who maybe was a cheerleader, and my mom would let me go after church, and by the time church was over, it would probably be like 5 minutes left in the game. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have those experiences. I've never went to prom. I wasn't allowed to go. I never had any of the college experiences that most people should have, so that they can matriculate not only in education but just in life. Period.
As a human.
Yeah, never had any of that. So when I started to find my sexuality or start having sexual desires, everything was on the low. Everything was secrets. Everything was quiet. I wasn't allowed to express who I really was at that particular time. I didn't know who I was, and I wasn't ever going to find out if I would have stayed in that lane, because who was going to teach me? Who could I talk to? Everybody around me was living fake lives that could help me, right? All the pastors that were, bisexual or same-gender loving or queer, they couldn't help me.
Because they were living private lives.
Exactly. Now they would have sex with me, but they wouldn't. But they couldn't help me. You get what I'm saying? And then all of the women or people who I could talk to, I couldn't, because they were judgmental. So I was just kind of like left out there by myself.
I like what you said. So working in sex work has allowed you to bring to the public world everything that you held privately.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And once you are on a platform, you can't get away from it. Now I know some celebrities, they recluse and they just like leave and you don't see them anymore, but that's because they don't have social media. I'm still young. I'm still connecting with people. So as long as there's a platform, even if I'm just doing it just to connect with people, it's going to turn into something bigger because people are going to keep it there. People still, they still play my preaching videos, if the social media is dragging me, they'll say he went from this to this, but what they don't realize in their minds, I've went backwards. But spiritually, I've gone forwards.
So talk to me about what does a healthy ethical sex like look like for you?
Honest. Honest. And all my preacher friends that I will definitely send this link to, they know exactly what I'm saying. I have an honest sex life. Nothing is hidden. My partner knows what's going on with my sex life. We have additional partners because we are polyamorous. They know what's going on. I'm not hiding anything. Hiding that caused me a lot of problems and a lot of issues and a lot of things that I currently still deal with to this day because of the fact that I wasn't able to be open and honest.
So speaking of being open and honest, and even speaking about what you were saying around you're now able to live publicly, so much about sex is not discussed. So much about sex is like held in private, closed doors, behind doors type of settings. Although we know that sex is so pervasive within our society, it's pervasive within our media, within music, within our own lives. Why is that? Like, why is something that is so pervasive kept so private?
Right. Christianity demonizes sex, right? And we have to be honest about that. It demonizes sex. There's other cultures, like the Greek culture, which I swear I'm Greek. I have to get my 23 and me back, or 20 whatever it's called.
Absolutely.
But sex is celebrated, and we learn from those societies that their STI rates are lower. That their unwanted pregnancies, teenage pregnancies is lower, because it's not something that's taboo. And when you make something taboo, if you make something deviant, if you make something what it shouldn't be, then you create the platform for it to start to destroy people. And I always say this, that Constantine knew exactly what he was doing when he was taking parts of the Jewish faith and Roman customs to create the Catholic Church. Because again, the Bible that many of us have read and have studied out of was not just built to empower, it was built to control and manipulate. So the number one way to set people up for failure is to demonize an aspect about them that they can't help, that is natural. Yes. Right. So they couldn't demonize food, right? So look at this. People die from overeating, all type of health issues, right? But you can't demonize food.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
It doesn't have that same effect.
Exactly.
Or power.
But with sex, it's a natural thing. So if you ever want to set somebody up for failure, you take something that is natural to them and demonize it, and then give them no roadmap. Ooh, I felt the anointing on that. You give them no roadmap, and then tell them to survive.
And see how much they flounder.
And then you make everybody around that individual feel the same way that they feel about the same stuff, and whoever's the best liar is the winner. And lives the best life. So you all see,
which goes back to why you think honesty is the foundation for a healthy sex life.
Because I don't want to say all, because I know they'll see it. Most of my preacher friends live better sex lives than I do. Right?
It's just not honest.
They're just not open. Yeah.
So I actually have a lot of I'm very much so pro sex work.
Yes.
And critical.
Yes.
Not because I am against people living their full lives and living honest lives, but I'll frame it this way. Many people criticize porn and sex work for subjectification of women, perpetuation of racism, exploitation of vulnerable populations, like children, communities, people with mental health concerns. How do you imagine a sex work industry that addresses many of those real and dangerous concerns?
Wow. I think those are very big concerns, because we do see pedophilia in the Roman Catholic Church especially, and in churches around the world. I want to make sure I say that. You don't say that. Let me say it. You do see the way that it does affect how people see women.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. As sexual objects.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the truth of the matter is that when you hear a sex worker who's a female say that sex is power, they're 100% correct. Think about this. You all's last president, as powerful as he says that he is, as much money as he says that he has, was taken down partly because of a sex worker.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? You had all this money, access to any woman in the world. Who's going to turn down, 40, whatever number he was? Nobody would have, even before he got in office, nobody, if he was a genuine spirit, would have turned him down. He had access to whatever.
He did.
But yet he could not control this one aspect about him. So who had more power in this situation? Him or Stormy? You get what I'm saying? And so we can talk about how it objectifies women. We can talk about how, and believe me, when it comes to pedophilia, that should just like off the rip,
Absolutely.
period.
Absolutely.
If it comes to rape, and we know that that's a big issue right now, and I have very strong feelings on the whole Bill Cosby situation as well. But at the same time, I think that we need to realize that that is like less than 10% of the cases for sex workers. Most people who are sex workers are sex workers because we want to do this, or this is what is necessary for us to survive. Now, I will tell you, it is not necessary for me to survive.
Yeah, because I do think there are so many layers to sex work.
Yeah.
Right? There are those who pursue sex work out of their own autonomy.
Right.
This is what I want to do.
Right.
I enjoy doing this. I might not even enjoy doing this, but I like doing it.
Right.
I like it enough to where I can do it.
Right.
Then there's survival sex work.
Exactly.
Then there are those who are exploited into sex work,
Exactly.
particularly children.
Yes.
Particularly,
And I am completely against that.
it's so layered, right?
Yes,
and
it is.
oftentimes I can never fully see the distinctions between many of those layers.
Without hearing their story.
Right.
Yeah. And this is another reason why I think it's important for people to mind their own business. Right? Because you don't know a person's story. Right? So when we talk to the other sex workers that we know, everybody has a different reason for why they're doing it. For Mike and Monty, we're doing it because we're building something. Right?
Yeah.
And for a long time, people couldn't see that. They're starting to see it now, right? So I will tell you this. We have had a lot of apologies. We've had a lot of people come back to us and say, you know what, I see what you all are doing. I see this. It's a joy to know that I can write one check and pay this off, or I can take care of this, or I can do that. And people can say, well, you know, you're educated, you know, you've worked for a major university in Atlanta, and you have been in the community, you've been helping people. Why would you do that? It's because, one, again, I was doing this in private. You get what I'm saying? I'm not changing behaviors. I'm just now monetizing what I've always done. And for most sex workers, that's what it's been. We've always been doing this. It's just now we can actually monetize it and make something out of it.
Right.
And let's be clear. There are a lot of pastors who have OnlyFans who wear masks and don't have tattoos or cover their tattoos, that I know personally that come to me for therapy.
Let me ask you this. So, as someone who works in sex work, do you feel sexually free or sexually commodified? Or both? Or a little bit? Or it depends on who you ask or the day?
I definitely feel sexually free because this has given me the opportunity to find out who I am sexually. Most people don't know who they are sexually. Most people are told what to like. They don't know what they like.
They're given rules, not keys to not freedom.
Exactly. Even my straight preacher friends, they hit me up all the time like, Mike, wow, like, man, I would just love to explore and know what it is that I like. How do you know you don't like sex with multiple people until you have had it? How do you know, even as a straight, or I don't like to use the word straight, as a heterosexual man, that you don't like penetration if you've never been penetrated? How do you know that you don't like vagina and penis or
whatever body
booty at the same time? So I'm still learning what it is that I like. So on one hand, I don't feel bound at all. I feel much more free because I'm finally able to do this, right? And I'm able to encourage others to find the same, right? As long as it's done safely, honestly, with integrity, and with full communication. Do I feel like I'm a commodity? Hell yeah. Because when I look at my bank account, it shows me that I'm able to monetize what I've always done. People just didn't know because I was so busy preaching. But you know what's funny? In our salon, we call it Therapeutic Aesthetics because we let people come. They can talk about their issues. So I still be doing therapist work, but I get an opportunity to help them with their skincare. And I don't want to say every, but I'll say some of the preachers that have come have said the same thing. Like, they're doing the same exact thing that I am. they're just not able to put that out there.
Wow. Going back to honesty being the foundation for what you envision to be a healthy, ethical sex life.
Yes, which I think is honestly has to be the base of it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So going back to what you were saying, because you don't put the preachers out there.
Yeah.
What does it look like for the church to be in supportive, positive ministry with sex workers?
Okay, again, I don't know as a whole if that will happen in traditional settings, right? Only because...
So the church would have to divest from a lot of traditional norms that it has tethered itself to.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. My greatest struggle in life has always been lying, right? And even people drag me today. Oh, he's a liar. He's this. He's that. And if they're talking about in the past, I will say yes. I became extremely good at lying, but it was the church that taught me to lie.
Wow.
And so, in order for me to break and I have a book coming out called "Killing the Liar Within." I had to completely disconnect from church in order to kill the liar. So until the church is ready to disassociate with some of the beliefs and the teachings that we have been given, I'm not sure if that will ever happen, because the number one reason why churches that know truth or pastors that know truth won't preach it is because it will affect their bottom line, which is their money. So if you've been telling a person who sows maybe $30,000 a year to your church, if you've been telling them for 30 years, homosexuality is a sin, homosexuality is a sin, homosexuality is a sin, and you get up on Sunday and you're like, listen, it's not a sin. Guess who's leaving your church? The person who you have brainwashed, maybe innocently.
Because now their whole reality
has been so shifted. This is the very thing that happened to my spiritual grandfather, who is Bishop Carlton Pearson. He preached a certain level of teaching for so long that when he decided to drop the truth, people couldn't take it. And the people that stood with him for years now was like, oh, you're the devil. This is Satan. You know what I mean?
So what I'm hearing you say,
and it affects about the bottom line.
But something else that I'm hearing you say that I think is very poignant is that one of the ways in which the church can be in great ministry and support is to begin to help people live fully within their truth.
Before they do that, they're going to have to disassociate with the teaching.
What are some of these teachings that the church would need to disassociate from?
Anything dealing with sex, we're going to have to go back and look at it again.
Just re-examine the whole canon of our theology around
and
sex.
That would involve so many churches losing so much, because the truth is, and this blew my mind statistically, in Pentecostalism, the average education is less than that of a high school student. Now, denominations that are more free, that are more open, the average education is a master's degree. What I find specifically about the Methodist Church, you all are very big on education. And so we see the doctors and people who... Now, this doesn't make people better.
It does not.
Okay, I want to make sure I say that. Just because you have a PhD don't make you better.
I was about to push back on that because even within the United Methodist Church now, we're still wrestling through, discerning, exploring. What do we what?
Why are you wrestling? And the reason why I'm saying this, why are you? You know why? Well, from my experience with the Methodist Church,
I wouldn't even say we wrestle, child. It's just full on fight. It's a
you know why? Brawl. Because again, if you educate me and you tell me what I have been believing for years is no longer the truth, I'm going to fight you on everything that you say. And then once I find out it's the truth, then I have to fight within myself to determine how can I keep $1 million budget and still preach truth. It's impossible.
But to me, that is a part of the gospel.
I agree.
That for me, to sacrifice so that people can access the freedom of the kingdom of God, that to me is the message.
We need to send that to the mega churches
of the gospel. Right, if I'm sitting between the freedom of this community that I am called to serve,
Right.
and my ability to pay off this $1 million mortgage,
Right. What are you going to do?
To me, there is no choice or question.
To you, and that's because you are a man of character.
I'm also a man who firmly believes in the gospel, who firmly believes in the liberation of people, who firmly believes that people should not be bound and shackled by things that are not going to allow us to actualize our full selves. Going back to what you were saying about holiness, like that, like living our whole lives, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's without a question to me that the answer is the liberation of people
over money and finances. But then think about
that doesn't mean that I am against us making sure that our bags are secure.
Right, we have to.
Right. But I am not going to compromise my integrity.
Right.
And I'm certainly not going to compromise the gospel.
Right.
Just for that.
Okay, so I definitely think it's important that we are financially sound.
Absolutely.
Okay? So let's have this conversation. So there is a amazing anointed mega pastor that we all love, right? Mm-hmm. And God has really used this individual to change and shift. Mm-hmm. See, this is what I do love about God. Every so often, God will send somebody who will shift the church in such a way that people have no choice but move. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. We've had a number of those people. Yeah. The one that's probably the most recent is probably, I would say, Bishop T.D. Jakes, who God has used to really bring the liberation of women. Mm-hmm. Before Bishop Jakes, women were oppressed. Mm-hmm. But that message, Woman Thou Art Loose, really took women to a brand new level, right? God used this man to do that. But when we're talking about the liberation of queer people, when we talk about the liberation of sex workers, when we talk about the liberation of people that are deemed unfit or outcast, and the Bible can clearly talk about their liberation. But if it's been taught for so long that we can't embrace these people, and then that pastor learns the truth, right? And they know what the truth is, then they have to decide, am I going to lose everything that I have? I've been a pastor where I've been extremely successful and lost it all because I decided to live my truth. But then not only are you struggling with the church, losing the building, some pastors, they can let go of that very easy, even though it's hard. They can let go of that. But then what about legacy? Yeah. Then what else are they going to do with their life when they're no longer making $100,000 a year or $200 a year or or $1 million a year? What are you going to do then? Like, then you have family to worry about. Who's going to pay your health insurance? Who's going to pay for your kids? So it's so multi-layered.
It is layered. And I don't want to be so Pollyanna-ish or naive to not ever tell people to be concerned about their finances and their well-being. I just know for me, I just think that it is absolutely possible to live within one's integrity.
I agree.
And still make sure your bills are cool.
I agree. But you know how that has to happen? It has to happen. You have to start out that way. Absolutely. Because the moment that you don't.
Absolutely.
This is one thing I love about truth. Anything that you build on the lie, no matter how big, no matter how successful, the moment truth comes, truth never starts at the top. It gets to the root and it knocks out everything. And what happens, just like what we saw in Sunnyside, Florida, when the foundation breaks, the building falls. Absolutely. And most pastors, especially the ones that I know, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and physically would never be able to survive that.
But if you started on truth,
let's let that happen.
It would be good.
I'm waiting.
I think that's a good place to close. Thank you so much. Really appreciate
No problem. This. I appreciate you. Thank you. This meant a lot to me. We have to do this again.